This baby girl is actually a mature woman who has been reincarnated. To avoid frightening her parents, she waited 10 months before speaking and walking. Upon entering preschool, the teacher discovered that she could write like an adult and had advanced academic abilities. It turns out, she was reborn after a car accident. Before the accident, 33-year-old Asami was unmarried and worked for the government. After the accident, she was told she could reincarnate, but could only become a giant ant-eating creature in Guatemala. Asami still doubted herself, so she asked again, will she reincarnated as a giant ant-eater in Guatemala? The staff member confirmed it was right. He mentioned the need to accumulate sufficient karma, as it could improve the chances of a successful human reincarnation. Asami wondered if her lack of karma in her past life, perhaps due to neglecting to help people, had led to this. However, regrets were useless now. The staff member informed her of another option, choosing not to reincarnate and living her life as it was, to amend her life's trajectory, accumulate karma, and have a chance at a better next life. Surprisingly, there was a door on the left that led to reincarnation. Without hesitation, Asami walked towards the right. The moment she opened the door, she found herself reincarnated, but retained memories from her past life. It wasn't easy to endure infancy and kindergarten again, but she knew she had to accumulate karma. Asami didn't litter anymore, nor did she collect nectar from flowers like before. With an adult's mindset, she also discovered a secret she had missed before. Rina's father was close to her teacher. Asami remembered from her past life when Rina suddenly changed her name and moved away. The class teacher disappeared too. Did their relationship lead to Rina's parents' divorce and her subsequent relocation? Asami kept interrupting and eavesdropping on their conversations. One day, she saw Rina's father handing a paper to the teacher. Seizing the opportunity when the teacher wasn't in the office, Asami altered the content of the paper. Later, she pondered, feeling unsatisfied with her actions. She decided to threaten Rina's father via a message, saying she'd expose him if he cheated. But with no mobile phones yet, Asami recalled how her friend taught her to use a landline to send messages. One evening, while her parents were asleep, she attempted to use the landline at home, but almost got caught by her father. Luckily, she managed to evade suspicion. However, Asami realized it wasn't safe, and opted for a public phone. She went to the park's public phone booth, only to find she had no money. Helpless, she returned home. Remembering her sister, mentioning her father's secret stash in his shoes, Asami checked and found it. She returned to the phone booth, sent the prepared message, and was almost caught by patrolling police. To avoid getting caught, and to keep her parents from discovering her nighttime excursion, Asami hid under a car until the police left. Quietly, she returned home. Finally, she could sleep peacefully that night. The next day, Rina's father stopped talking to the teacher, dropped Asami at school, and left immediately afterward. Rina didn't move, and the teacher didn't disappear. Asami's plan seemed successful. Several years later, she entered elementary school again. Studying was still easy, she could top the class even without attending. Though she had fantasized about a different life, there were fundamental similarities with her past life. The only difference was the need to focus on accumulating karma. In 1997, elementary students were obsessed with Tamagotchis, a virtual pet game. Asami, with memories from her past life, already had the rare white Tamagotchi and handed it to Shizuka, who excelled in the game. There was another surprise. Reina from her past life stayed because Asami intervened during kindergarten. Now, they attended the same elementary school. At school, Asami predicted a future couple would marry and divorce. However, this time she didn't interfere. Nazuki and Miho became Asami's friends. After school, they often gathered, exchanged stickers, and discussed various topics. In 4th grade, Tamagotchis and stickers faded out, replaced by personal profiles where girls could write their secrets. Asami knew she had to be careful this time, unlike before when she lost everything. Blinking, she entered her rebellious phase. She didn't understand why she felt so resentful towards her father. Maybe it was teenage rebellion, just like in her past life when she was strict with him. Of course, her rebellion wasn't just directed at her father. There was also the detestable teacher, Mr. Mita. One day, when Mr. Mita caught a student passing notes, Asami stood up to defend the student, intending to use the teacher's logic against him. But Mr. Mita ignored her reasoning and called her to his office along with the student. Asami found herself in trouble. Not just the student. She wondered when girls started taking Korean-style photos as a new entertainment trend. That day, Mr. Mita took Asami's handheld game, a fact she completely forgot. Unexpectedly in this life, Asa stumbled upon the same troubles again. Her gaming device was confiscated by the teacher. Asami couldn't believe it. Even if she died, Asami wouldn't have expected to trip over the same spot twice. Though granted memories upon reincarnation, the budding love of youth still exists within her. Looking at these mischievous kids, there's no place for blossoming love. The object of her unrequited love from before, she now feels nothing for him. The mature uncle figure still holds more attraction. In terms of academics, she has her advantages, but in high school, it becomes more challenging. Some talented students gradually surpass her. Each time, Asami only maintains around 7th place in the whole school. Of course, she still aims to pass into the prestigious girls' school as in her previous life, solely because she fears not getting into another good school would be troublesome. Life in high school is dull and monotonous. In 2008, Asami successfully passed the university entrance exam. This time, she chose a challenging pharmacy program. Coincidentally, in the school's cafeteria, she met her university boyfriend from her past life, Masaru. This time, they weren't in the same department, so they didn't know each other. In the past, they were deeply in love until they broke up 2 years after university graduation. The reason was Masaru's gambling addiction, often skipping classes. After graduation, his job was unstable, frequently changing, and he irresponsibly borrowed 500,000 yen from her. Therefore, in this life, Asami intended to pass him by, hoping they could find new paths. During the university break, her best friend Miho finally got her driver's license and bought a car. Asami and Nazuki marveled at Miho's significant change. Previously restricted in their hometown, they could now roam around the neighboring city. At the graduation ceremony, Asami saw the troublemaker on stage being dragged away as usual. After the ceremony, they attended their middle school reunion and saw that the handsome Gato had become overweight. The course of history hadn't changed a bit. Sasuke, who used to be the best singer, was highly anticipated to enter the music industry. Sasuke felt the enthusiasm and promised not to disappoint. Only Asami knew that he ended up as a karaoke receptionist. His songs were okay with these people, but nobody actually bought his CDs, just empty words. Girls even asked for his autograph, claiming it would be a priceless treasure when he became famous, but most of them probably lost it. Silently observing the enthusiasm of these people, feeling contempt in her heart, including contempt for herself in her past life, Asami wondered if she should intervene. If she did, perhaps Sasuke and Shizuka wouldn't divorce. She had thought about giving them some advice, but then she remembered Nazuki saying that Sasuke gave up his dream of music after remarrying and having a child, working at the karaoke bar to support his family. If she reluctantly changed his trajectory now, maybe the child wouldn't be born. Would that damage her conscience? Weighing it up, in the end, Asami did nothing, letting things flow naturally. Approaching graduation, Asami smoothly passed the pharmacist exam and various training courses before getting a job. After graduation, she was assigned to a pharmacy 20 minutes away from home. Not much different from her civil service job in her previous life. As a full-time pharmacist, her main tasks were to dispense medicine according to prescriptions, check them and hand them to patients, then record and store communication content. Of course, she also had to verify whether the doctor prescribed the right medication or not. Sometimes if patients waited too long, they would suggest something, and she had to patiently explain. Life continued as usual. One day after work, Asami met Mr. Mita, their middle school teacher, on the subway. Unpleasant memories from that time prevented her from starting a conversation. Instead, she wanted to sneakily take his picture with her phone and show off to her friends. Suddenly, a girl on the train grabbed Mr. Mita's hand, accusing him of being a pervert. Mr. Mita was shocked, denying the accusation. They argued on the subway until they got off at the next stop, where the girl explained the situation to the station staff. Then Asami remembered, in her previous life, Miho had said Mr. Mita was fired from school for something he didn't do. Realizing this, she hurriedly explained to the staff that she witnessed the whole incident. Asami still had the video she secretly recorded earlier. In the video, it was clear that another man was harassing the girl. When Asami enlarged the video, she discovered that the harasser was Taniguchi, her former boss. An employee said that if they presented this video to the police, they could probably track down Taniguchi in a few days. Asami knew that Taniguchi was working in a government office. She occasionally saw him when she went to get paperwork done. Mr. Mita was relieved and thanked Asami for speaking up to clear the truth. Later on, Asami saw the incident reported in the news. Taniguchi had been fired from the government office. Mr. Mita even visited her house to express gratitude, saying that this time, it was fortunate to have Asami's video, otherwise he might have been fired by the school. He also returned the handheld game console he confiscated from her in middle school. He had intended to return it but had forgotten. Asami brought the console out, and to her surprise, it still worked. She hadn't touched it since she bought it. And now, finally, she could use it. Asami had passed through life a second time without noticing the issue with herself, that she was still single. Her friends were similar to her, until she saw her former colleague happily discussing love. Only then did she realize she might have influenced those around her. Could it be that being close friends with someone also affected their love life? At 26 in her second life, Asami changed to a pharmacy closer to her home. The rule of this pharmacy was whoever arrived first opened it. There was a respected senior, Toro, in the pharmacy who was meticulous in his work, but had a habit that puzzled Asami. Although he always arrived first, he never opened the door, but waited for someone else to do it, pretending he had just arrived. Despite this, he seemed excellent in other aspects. As the pharmacy was close to where Asami used to work, she often ate lunch at her usual spot, where she met her former colleagues. Her mood became complicated. She didn't engage in conversation with them, yet her former colleagues talked happily about love. Asami even suspected she might have slowed them down in her previous life. One day, Asami and Haruka visited Nobuhiro's grandfather. Haruka noted how often Asami visited him lately, jokingly implying she was becoming attached to him. In reality, it was because Nobuhiro's health fluctuated, and within 2 years, he passed away, so Asami chose to spend more time with him now. Upon arrival, she saw him taking medicine with tea. When she looked at his 2 prescriptions, she realized they were from different hospitals. Mixing them could be extremely dangerous. Asami began to suspect this might be the reason for his deteriorating health. To be cautious, she took the prescriptions to the pharmacy for advice. When she received confirmation that they couldn't be taken together, Asami knew her suspicion was correct. Later, Nobuhiro sought a new prescription from the doctor. A few weeks later, Kumiko's mother said that her grandfather's health had noticeably improved. Asami praised herself for studying pharmacy. It was indeed the right choice. This was the happiest thing she had done so far. However, she soon found herself unhappy again. While casually flipping through a magazine in the pharmacy, Asami saw a familiar figure, Masaru, her former boyfriend. In this life, they hadn't met, but Masaru had become a successful entrepreneur with $1 billion turnover. Asami vividly remembered his gambling addiction in her previous life, even lending him $500. Could this have something to do with her? This thought troubled her for a long time. At 33 in her second life, the same age when Asami died in her previous life, she still wasn't married. She spent her days eating out and chatting with friends, with the only difference being that this time, they accidentally met Rina, now an adult. Rina took the initiative to greet them, showing everyone a picture of her partner. Asami immediately recognized the middle-aged man as Toro, their senior in the pharmacy. What made Asami unable to speak was the possibility that Toro might be married, as she had seen him wearing a ring. When she was young, Rina's father had an affair. Now it seemed to be her turn. It seemed like fate. Reluctantly accepting that changing destiny would eventually come back to her, they went to Korea for a photo shoot. The older they got, the more they wanted to remember their youth. At the karaoke bar, they unexpectedly met Sasuke, whom they hadn't seen in 13 years. Asami had known for a while, but she pretended to be surprised. Sasuke arranged a VIP room for them, and even offered them drinks. Asami happily stood up and thanked him. In their previous life, Sasuke treated them to French fries, but they were too full now to eat more. So when asked at the door, Asami mentioned they were already full. It seemed he understood her hint. Asami then told Nazuki and Miho about Toro, and the 3 girls discussed it for half a day. They planned to confront Reina, but none of them had her contact information. Nazuki thought maybe Sasuke had it. Asami left the VIP room and asked Sasuke if he knew how Reina was doing now. Sasuke said he was fine, albeit a bit tired from work, but he was happy. He showed Asami a picture of his child, and asked if she had given up on her musical dreams. Sasuke said he wasn't the type to give up on his family. Asami silently thought perhaps it was right not to change Sasuke's fate. After contacting Reina, the 3 of them rehearsed a fun scene to see what would happen next. 30 minutes later, Rina arrived as planned. After a simple confirmation, Asami revealed Toro's story. Rina was a bit stunned, but once she confirmed it was true, she promptly called him and scolded him harshly. Then they broke up, deleted his number, and Rina hung up. The 3 of them applauded her decisiveness. Seeing Rina's firm action, they felt relieved. During their conversation, they began to gossip again. Asami saw a paper on the ground and remembered that in her previous life, she was hit by a car while picking up paper, triggering her reincarnation. This time, the result had changed. Asami happily picked up the paper. Next was the future she hadn't experienced yet. The 4 of them left in Miho's car. At that moment, a mysterious girl quietly watched them from behind. Several weeks later, their daily office life continued as usual. The only difference was Toro now opened the door himself, no longer waiting for others. Other things remained the same as before. That day, as Asami was preparing to go out for lunch, she saw a film crew shooting outside. Asami curiously glanced over, noticing a star among them. She was so focused she didn't pay attention to the path. A truck suddenly rushed towards her. Was this the end of Asami's life again? No, that couldn't be. It's so frustrating to be careless like this. Asami helplessly approached the reception desk again, asking why she was still defaulted to logout at age 33. The staff explained that everyone had a death period and showed a bunch of documents to prove it. They said Asami's easy ascension time was after age 30. As long as she could avoid this dangerous period, she could live a long life. At this moment, Asami regretted deeply, but had no other choice. She asked if this time she accumulated more virtuous merits, could she be reborn as a human? The staff said decisively no. With eyes as big as Indian Ocean fish, it was absolutely impossible. Asami tried to argue that she had tried hard, but the staff explained that wanting to be reborn as a human was just a human thought. Actually, animals also wanted to be reborn as similar creatures. Asami said this time her virtuous merits must be more than before. Still, because she didn't have enough merits, she couldn't be reborn as a human, right? The staff confirmed that was correct. Looking at the picture of a tuna, Asami truly didn't want to be reborn as a salted fish, especially one that could be eaten anytime. Asami asked if she could still reincarnate. Asami thought to herself, genuinely surprised. Holding on to a thread of hope, she asked, can she reincarnate countless times until she's satisfied then stop? The staff said, no. The number of reincarnations is determined by the karma from the first life. Some people don't get a second chance. Asami wondered how many chances does she have left, but the staff responded, "That's a secret," Asami decided. She headed towards the door on the right, starting her third life. This time, the exhausting period of infancy remained just as tiring. It wasn't until preschool that Asami discovered something even more draining. She still had to deal with Rina's teacher and her father again. Unfortunately, the little girl couldn't think of a better solution, so she followed the same old path. During dinner at home, Asami looked at the tuna on the table and swore that next time she would definitely be reborn as a human. She smoothly navigated through kindergarten and elementary school, but the feeling of resentment towards her father lingered into her teenage years. Conversations with friends changed from small talk to discussions about TV shows and movies. Mr. Mita still assigned paper passes to students as he did before. Having failed in her second life, Asami refused to succumb to Mr. Mita's authority and challenged him once again. She successfully found a flaw in his argument that left Mr. Mita speechless. Asami thought she had the upper hand, but Mr. Mita still managed to broaden her perspective. He challenged Asami, reminded her that he is teacher, then continuing his lessons on moral philosophy. After school, the three of them still had to go to Mr. Mita's office for feedback. Through 3 lifetimes, Asami finally understood how foolish it was to argue moral philosophy with a teacher. Academically, Asami had no grand ambitions, so she deliberately failed her exams and ranked 13th in the school, worse than in her second life. Moving on to high school, not much changed. Asami still passed the university entrance exam just like before, but this time she majored in literature, similar to her first life. Of course, Masaru, her ex-boyfriend from her previous life, was also at this academy. Asami didn't intend to get acquainted with him because she didn't believe that their relationship could change so drastically. Perhaps Masaru in her second life was just lucky. She didn't want to get involved, but that didn't mean he didn't want to talk to her. Masaru took the initiative to invite her to karaoke. Out of politeness, Asami went with another classmate. Watching him sing familiar songs brought back good memories. After the activity ended, they happened to be heading in the same direction, so Masaru gave Asami a ride home. Sitting in the car she was so familiar with, Asami's emotions became inexplicably complex. Joy and sorrow intertwined like a movie reel, scenes flashing before her eyes. Masaru was extremely curious about the girl who always avoided him. Before getting out of the car, he even asked for Asami's contact details. Despite already exchanging contact information, Masaru's request, despite its politeness, made Asami feel embarrassed. Unconsciously, she ended up joking with Masaru. After spending some time together, he confessed his feelings to her. Remembering how Masaru became a successful CEO in her second life, Asami decided to take a chance. She agreed to date him. For Asami, it was a reunion after 26 years of separation, a miraculous experience transcending time and space. Although she already knew Masaru's personality, there was nothing new, but the two of them still got along well. In her heart, she silently vowed that this time, she wouldn't let him fall into the trap of gambling again. When Masaru didn't show up for class, Asami would immediately call to check on him. Arriving at their dorm, they found trash scattered all over the floor. Asami scolded him and demanded he clean it up. After some time, Masaru proactively suggested breaking up, perhaps thinking that Asami was too controlling. The result was a confusing breakup for both of them. This reunion made Asami feel lonely again, as if she had lost billions. After graduating from university, Asami worked at a television station. The first time she left her hometown for Tokyo, Asami's first job was to create a newspaper layout with song lyrics or to act as a stand-in under the bright lights. Although the work was tough, Asami thought it was beneficial for accumulating merit. Later, she was assigned as a production assistant for a film crew, helping to guide and take care of actors, ensuring smooth operations on set. With experience from 2 lifetimes, Asami's work capability was quite outstanding. She got along well with the actor Uzuda, and they made a pact that when Asami became a producer, she would cast Uzuda as the lead. After completing the first television drama, there was a period of rest. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Asami went home to visit her parents, accompanied by Nazuki and Miho. The 3 reminisced about their youth, a tradition they continued in the future. Whenever Asami felt exhausted from work, she would return to her hometown to chat with her friends, which helped relieve stress and recharge her energy. After over a year of working at the television station, Asami finally participated in a film she liked from her previous life. The producers she collaborated with were all top figures in the industry. During this time, a girl approached her, and Asami immediately recognized Misa, her elementary school friend. Misa said she was now a professional makeup artist. The unexpected encounter brought joy to both of them, and it seemed like they had endless topics to discuss. The first episode of the television drama was completed and aired with high ratings, just as Asami predicted. However, her workload increased afterward. One day, Haruka sent her a message reminding her that it was her father's birthday, and she shouldn't forget to call him. Suddenly, Asami remembered her previous life, when she bought a birthday gift for her father, and met Mr. Mita on the subway. But now, in Tokyo and working until midnight, she couldn't go back home. She really wanted to but couldn't help. Though Asami thought so, she couldn't focus on work knowing Mr. Mita's fate. She went to the schedule board nearby, wondering if she could speed up the filming process to make time to go home. As a result, Asami quickly adjusted the filming schedule, condensing a 6-scene play into 3 scenes, and eliminating unnecessary shots. She also informed Misa to speed up the makeup process and arranged the actors for the next scene to be ready on set. She persuaded the director to skip lunch breaks and film all scenes in one go. Even the night scenes were called in early, under Asami's direction. With all these arrangements, the filming progressed much faster, but issues still arose. The call sheet machine malfunctioned, but luckily, disposing of the broken equipment solved the problem. When the actors called in were stuck in traffic, Asami asked for advice from the external shooting team. Fortunately, there was a small road they could take, and the problem was resolved smoothly. Finally, they completed the 3-hour shoot. Tomorrow. As Asami took the train home, she remembered a night train ride at 9 o'clock, but there were 3 night trains at 9 o'clock, and she couldn't remember which one specifically. She luckily remembered Mr. Mita taking the train from Kumagaya, so she decisively intercepted him outside the GA gate while waiting for others. Coincidentally, she ran into her elementary school friend Shizuka, who was passing by this place. The two chatted endlessly, discussing Sasuke's family matters. Asami thought it was strange how the topic suddenly became so serious. After bidding farewell to Shizuka, Asami soon saw Mr. Mita. She quickly greeted him, saying it had been a long time and she wanted to talk. However, Mr. Mita said his wife was pregnant and he had to go home, suggesting they talk another day. Watching Mr. Mita walk away, Asami thought to herself, this time it's truly messed up. She resolutely intervened and followed Mr. Mita, saying she also wanted to take the subway. She deliberately separated him from the scene to prevent an accident. Soon after, a collision occurred as expected, but Asami successfully helped Mr. Mita avoid the accident. Taking advantage of the opportunity, she surprised her parents when she got home. She also brought a birthday present for her father. Despite having just returned, she had to leave again, making her family want to see her off. Both Asami's parents were very happy to see their daughter return from afar. She was also glad to have resolved Mr. Mita's issue. After that, she continued to work at the television station for another 5 years, still facing stressful and busy workdays. Asami and Misa went out for lunch, choosing a decent restaurant. During this time, they could also talk about the interesting rumors from before, along with work matters. In the evening, she had to work late into the night. One night, Nazuki called her, telling her to look out the window. It turned out that Miho and Nazuki had come to Tokyo to visit Asami. They said they were planning to spend the day in Tokyo and return the next day. Asami said she was very happy but also mentioned that she needed some preparation time. With only one bed, they had to think about the sleeping arrangement. Miho joked that it wouldn't be okay for all 3 to sleep on the floor. Asami wanted to sleep on the bed, but Nazuki said she had changed since coming to Tokyo and was no longer cooperative. Asami clarified that she didn't mind sharing a bed with them, but thought if there was a bed, why not use it? They agreed that where they slept didn't matter. Asami mentioned that Nazuki had bought snacks but hadn't shared them yet. Nazuki reacted surprised, realizing she had forgotten about it. So the 3 of them ate snacks and chatted, sharing everything from their past experiences. Asami felt the pressure and fatigue melt away. The next morning, Asami saw Nazuki taking medicine with tea. She quickly helped her get a glass of water and reminded her not to take medicine with tea. Although Nazuki felt a little strange, she still followed the advice. After seeing her friends off, Asami remembered Nobuhiro's situation from her previous life. Taking advantage of a free weekend, she visited him at home and helped him with his medication, just as she did before. However, Haruka asked how Asami knew not to take 2 types of medicine together, since she wasn't a pharmacist in this life. Asami made up a story, saying she had filmed a medical drama and gained a lot of medical knowledge. Unexpectedly, Haruka asked which drama it was. Asami had to admit that it was a different TV station's drama to make up for the number. Surprisingly, Sachi began to take an interest, saying she wanted to buy the DVD to watch it. Luckily, Asami successfully completed the task of changing Nobuhiro's medication again. While holding a magazine at the pharmacy, she saw that Masaru was still a successful CEO in this life. Asami thought to herself that if she hadn't broken up with him in college, this outcome might not have happened. The only difference was that in the previous life, Masaru's company had a revenue of 1 billion, but in this life, it was 900 million. Asami felt a little guilty, thinking that their 2-month relationship had caused a loss of 100 million. 2 years later, the efforts Asami accumulated at the television station finally paid off, and her proposal was smoothly approved. She could apply to be a producer, and so an idea related to her reincarnation gradually formed in Asami's mind. She planned to turn her experiences into a television drama, though no one would know it was her own story. However, other producers and executives at the television station found Asami's story too bland, lacking multiple climaxes. They questioned who would want to watch a show where reincarnation was just about saving people and preventing affairs. Furthermore, comparing her life after reincarnation with her past life didn't show any significant changes, which seemed odd. Wasn't it a waste to reincarnate multiple times without saving the world or winning a Nobel Prize? Facing pressure from the station, Asami had no choice but to compromise. After work, she remembered an important issue, Rina and Toro's affair. But there was a critical flaw in this scenario. Asami no longer worked in the pharmacy, so she couldn't know Toro was married, making her claims less credible. Currently, Rina and Toro hadn't met yet, so preventing their meeting would stop their affair. She started calling classmates, asking if anyone had Rina or Sasuke's phone number, but no one knew. 1 month before filming her life story began, Asami sought an opportunity to return home to resolve the issue with Rina. She went straight to the karaoke bar where Sasuke worked. But he wasn't on shift that night. Asami told the staff she was Sasuke's elementary school friend and hoped they could provide his contact information. Yamamoto, the staff member, thought she was a troublemaker and refused to give her Sasuke's number. Asami then looked through her elementary school graduation photos and spotted Shizuka, thinking there might be hope. She called Shizuka, asking if she had Rina's contact information. Fortunately, Shizuka did. Asami called Rina, reminiscing about old times and eventually inviting her out for dinner on April 1st, the day Rina was supposed to meet Toro. However, Rina declined. Frustrated, Asami decided to go to the restaurant where Rina and Toro were supposed to meet and waited at a spot where she could see people passing by. While waiting, she ate a meal, then ordered ice cream and drinks to pass the time. She ate a lot, but Rina still hadn't shown up. Just as Asami was about to give up, Rina finally appeared. They greeted each other happily, and Rina mentioned her previous appointment was cancelled so they could dine together. Asami, fearing Toro's arrival, suggested changing restaurants, but Rina insisted on staying, praising the food and hospitality. Asami, already full, struggled but decided to eat more to keep Rina there. While they were eating, Toro entered the restaurant. Asami quickly diverted Rina's attention with work stories. Toro sat nearby, which was dangerous. Asami kept Rina engaged with interesting work anecdotes. As they were finishing their meal, Rina hesitated over a side dish, and Asami, feeling overstuffed, was on the verge of cursing. In the end, Toro noticed Rina and greeted her. Asami, close to succeeding, was furious. Luckily, they only exchanged polite greetings since Asami was present, preventing any deeper conversation. When Rina went to pay and leave, Asami thought the situation was under control, only to turn around and see Rina and Toro exchanging contact information. Despite her strict vigilance, it was futile. The next morning, Asami went to the pharmacy where she had worked in her past life. Toro was waiting in his car as before. Asami approached him directly, confronting him about his marriage. Asami warned Toro to stay away from Rina, because he was married. Toro was about to argue, but Asami continued talking about his wedding ring as a proof. This left Toro speechless with anger and embarrassment, and he seemed ready to kick Asami out. Asami forced Toro never see Rina again. Under her pressure, he finally agreed. Before leaving, Asami said what she'd wanted to say in a previous life. If you ever come to the shop early, it's best you open the door yourself. Asami and Misa were discussing work when she was shocked to learn that Misa was married. Their group was known for ignoring love and marriage, focusing solely on their careers. Feeling betrayed, Asami demanded to know when Misa got married, and why she hadn't been informed. Misa explained that she got married 6 years ago when she started working there, but was too busy to have a wedding ceremony, so she didn't tell anyone. Asami, stunned that she hadn't noticed for 6 years, felt betrayed and thinking they were both too busy for relationships. Fortunately, she found some solace in their friends Nazuki and Miho. At that moment, Sasuke, whom she hadn't seen in 9 years, called unexpectedly. They arranged to meet at a cafe. Since their coming-of-age ceremony, they hadn't seen each other. Sasuke, now in Tokyo for some business, told Asami about his divorce. When she asked how he was doing, he revealed he was dating someone new and might be getting married again, even showing her a photo. Asami recognized the girl from a karaoke bar visit when she had gone looking for Sasuke. No wonder Yamamoto hadn't provided his phone number. Sasuke then gave Asami his new album, suggesting she listen if she didn't mind. Asami thought to herself that in all her past lives, she never had the chance to hear his music. Finally, this time she could. When she asked about his musical dreams, Sasuke shared that he had left his recording company and was now composing as an independent artist. He also wanted to try acting and offered to take on any small roles in her TV dramas. Before leaving, Sasuke reminded her to reach out if she ever needed anything. Asami mused that she might disappoint Sasuke this time, since the cast for her drama was already decided. That evening, Nazuki and Miho arrived in Tokyo. Asami teased them about visiting too often. Nazuki retorted that if she complained again, they'd visit every night. Asami mentioned meeting Sasuke and asked if they knew about his divorce from Shizuka. She added that making a living through music seemed tough for him, and now Sasuke was interested in acting. Nazuki and Miho were surprised. They never knew he could act. Sasuke had been popular in their class, so reaching out for help must have been difficult for him, likely due to life's pressures. Reflecting on their old friend's predicament, the three felt sorry for Sasuke. Miho suggested buying his album, and Asami revealed that Sasuke had given her a copy. They decided to listen to it together, but were shocked by how bad it was. Changing the subject, Asami shared that Misa had been married for 6 years to a senior colleague. When she asked why they weren't surprised, Nazuki, having learned from Sasuke's situation, wasn't fazed by Misa's news, especially after hearing Sasuke's song. Filming for Asami's drama went smoothly, despite the script being heavily altered from her own experiences, focusing on revenge and rebirth. The lead role was played by longtime friend and star Usoda. However, due to a delayed flight, another main actor couldn't make it for the next day's shoot, prompting Asami to contact the scheduler, see if it's possible to reschedule the shoot for the day after tomorrow. But then it was found out that Usoda will leave tomorrow afternoon. If the two main actors can't shoot together tomorrow, the subsequent scenes might be delayed too, which could affect the schedule for the first episode's broadcast. Asami reluctantly decided to temporarily use a stunt double. After looking through the backup list, no actor with a similar height was found. Suddenly, she remembered Sasuke's profile in her bag, and his height matched perfectly. Maybe Sasuke could give it a try. Later, Asami invited Sasuke over. Sasuke was surprised to see that Misa, the makeup artist, was also a former classmate. He gave her a record as a gift. Then Sasuke went to the set for filming, and exceeded expectations, completing the stunt double's task excellently. Before leaving, Asami said she would arrange a more dramatic role for him next time. When she called a taxi for Sasuke, she turned around and saw him chatting with Usoda, even giving her a record. Finally, it was time for the first episode to air. Nezuki and Miho also arrived in Tokyo in the evening, wanting to watch the first episode of Life Improvement with Asami. At that moment, she was on her way back. Unexpectedly, a truck lost control. Asami rushed to the reception desk, lamenting that she was only 29 years old. Didn't he say there was no danger until she was 30? The staff said it was just a matter of probability and that she could die before that time. He then said he would start arranging for her reincarnation. Asami asked if they had a TV there. She had worked very hard on the script, which had just been approved and started filming a few months ago. They shot until midnight every day, even bringing in old classmates to shoot. The trailer was cut very meticulously. Today was the critical moment when the first episode aired, but she had died. Couldn't she watch it before being hit? Asami said he was quick to refuse a dead person's last wish. The staff apologized and asked how long it would take to watch the show. Asami said 1 hour was enough. Just watching the first episode would be satisfactory. Then she asked if she could watch it now, but the staff said no, then asked which channel's main character she was. Asami saw hope and asked if she could watch just 10 minutes. The answer, no, still keeps going. The staff asked how many episodes there were in total. Asami said why ask so much, if he wouldn't let her watch. The staff said she had just complained about the quick refusal, so he needed to ask a few more questions. Asami asked what she would reincarnate as this time, a purple sea urchin from Hokkaido. Asami asked why, after working so hard in this life, she could only reincarnate as a sea urchin, worse than previous lives. The staff showed her a picture of a cooked sea urchin. Asami said she couldn't accept that being a sea urchin, and asked if she could reincarnate again. The staff said of course, just go to the right. Asami turned and asked why she always had to start over. It was tiring and exhausting. Couldn't she start in the middle like a game with a save function? Wishing her smooth sailing, Asami's fourth life began. She resolved to take risks this time, not live the same way as before, or she'd exhaust her karmic merits. After going to kindergarten, not only did Asami avoid sucking nectar, but she also actively advised her classmates not to. She taught them to share toys. Regarding the matter between the teacher and Reina's father, this time she decided to handle it differently. Asami went straight to the teacher and explained the situation, asking her not to have an affair. The teacher asked where she learned such things. Asami said there was once a teacher's affair that led to family breakup and job loss. She hoped this teacher wouldn't go missing. Asami said the paper had Reina's father's phone number on it and asked her not to contact him. The teacher was surprised to see the number and tore up the paper in front of Asami, promising not to have an affair and reassuring her. This strategy worked very well. The teacher intentionally kept a distance from Reina's father. Maybe she should have done this from the start. When she entered elementary school, Asami actively greeted elders, watered the plants at school, and tried to do everything to accumulate good karma. This time, in terms of studying, Asami didn't just sit back and enjoy the fruits of her existing wisdom. Starting from elementary school, she explored the knowledge of middle and high school, learning anything she thought would be useful. She absolutely did not waste any time. But in return, Nezuki and Miho didn't become her friends. Asami wore glasses from a very young age. One day, on her way to the library, she saw Nezuki and Miho trading stickers in the park. Memories of her past lives echoed in her mind. She approached them and asked to join their small group. Both were surprised that Asami wanted to join. Asami suddenly felt moved to tears. Nezuki and Miho gave her a sticker. She said she wanted to give them one too. But after they saw her stickers, they each randomly chose one. Asami sensed that they were being polite and didn't see her as a friend. Could it really be that without common ground, it's very difficult to play together? On the way home, Miho asked why she was so smart, always ranking first. Asami said she was taking supplementary classes. Before parting, as she watched Nezuki and Miho walk away, Asami felt that in this life she didn't seem to belong in their world anymore. It seemed difficult for her to integrate into their circle. She felt an inexplicable sadness. After entering middle school, Asami continued her passion for picking up trash. She went to school alone. When she saw Nezuki and Miho, she would simply greet them and then walk to school by herself. Without friends, Asami poured all her energy into studying. This time, she achieved first place in the entire school, but the feeling of loneliness often engulfed her. Unlike her classmates who enjoyed the joys of this age, going to take Korean-style photos, she felt a pang of discomfort. At this moment, someone suddenly called out to her from behind. It was Mary, the second-ranked student in the class. She invited her to take a photo. Unexpectedly, in this life, Asami and Mary took a photo together. In previous lives, she had always ranked first. The two of them started chatting and surprisingly, found they got along quite well. Mary asked if she could talk with her again tomorrow, and Asami was surprised that someone she had admired but never approached turned out to be so down-to-earth and approachable. In fact, Mary thought the same about her. Indeed, similar people attract each other more easily. Before long, Asami and Mary became friends. In past lives, Mary had always been the one giving presentations on the podium, but this time, the stage became Asami's domain. Asami even became the student council president, while Mary served as the vice president. Both graduated with excellent grades. This time, Asami chose to attend the best high school in the area and maintained her top rank in the entire grade. One day, Asami read in the newspaper about a medical professor who had won a Nobel Prize. She wondered if she could accumulate a large amount of good karma in this way. So, after graduating from high school, Asami decisively chose to attend the National University of Medicine. During her fourth coming-of-age ceremony, she once again encountered Nizuki and Miho. In this life, it was Mary who called her, and the two of them happily entered the auditorium. The troublemaker still got up on stage, and Asami and Mary started analyzing the various punishments he would face in the future. They concluded that seeking fame for a few short minutes was really not worth it. Later, they attended a middle school reunion. The plot was still the same as before. The only difference this time was Mary's presence. When they saw others praising Sasuke again, Asami remembered listening to his songs in a previous life. Mary, like Asami, thought Sasuke would not succeed. She even wanted to remind him, but Asami quickly discouraged her, worrying that the storyline might change, leading to Sasuke's child not being born, which would be problematic. Seeing Sasuke and Shizuka exchanging contact information, knowing that they would later marry and divorce, Asami refrained from intervening. Back in the VIP room, she wanted to reminisce with Nazuki and Miho, but it turned into one-sided pursuit, making her feel very sad. After graduating from university, Asami passed the medical license exam, then specialized in clinical research for 2 years. Asami became a research fellow at the National Institute of Medical Research. Their work involved finding unexplored medical phenomena, benefiting all of humanity, which was very suitable for accumulating good karma. Asami thought she might be able to reincarnate as a human again. Of course, outside of work, she couldn't abandon other tasks for accumulating good karma, like previously saving Professor Mita, but this time at the subway station she happened to meet Shizuka, who chatted with Asami about trivial household matters. This time, Asami supported Shizuka's idea of divorce. Due to chatting too long, Professor Mita walked by them. Fortunately, Asami noticed in time, and he recognized them. Asami told Professor Mita about Shizuka's troubles, using her to keep him there. Asami suggested finding a place to sit and discuss slowly, as it wasn't appropriate to talk there. Professor Mita checked the time and agreed to take the next subway. So the three went to a restaurant. Professor Mita advised Shizuka not to rush into divorce, but to communicate thoroughly with Sasuke, making him understand her true thoughts. If Sasuke insisted on pursuing his career in music, he must promise to do something well. Spouses should understand and compromise with each other. If they truly couldn't understand each other, then consider divorce later. Shizuka, taking Professor Mita's advice, understood a lot. Asami, seeing things going in the wrong direction, checked the time, worried that the subway incident might get triggered, so she urged Professor Mita to hurry to the next subway. He still wanted to continue talking, but Asami interrupted multiple times until he had to leave. Before leaving, Professor Mita reminded Shizuka to have a clear conversation with Sasuke when she returned. The issue with Professor Mita was resolved. Next, Asami wondered what other problems she had to solve. From childhood to adulthood, she was so outstanding that it aroused Haruka's suspicion. Haruka asked her if this was her second life, but Haruka never imagined it was her sister's fourth life. Having such an exceptional sister put a lot of pressure on her. Haruka became the center of attention for their parents and teachers, a favorite, but lived under Asami's shadow for many years. Haruka said her own grades were not that good, only in the top 5 of her class. She said having a genius sister made it very hard for her. Asami asked what she would want if this really were her second life. Haruka asked who she would marry in the future, but Asami truly didn't know. In previous lives, she had died before getting married. In this life, because she studied medicine, she quickly resolved the issue of switching medication for Nobuhiro. On the pharmacy magazine, Asami didn't see any news about Masaru. 3 years later, she went to resolve Reina's issue. Asami thought she had it under control this time, but unexpectedly, they still started talking to each other, making her have to wake up early once again. Asami vented her frustration on Toro. When exchanging contact information with a young woman, he wasn't wearing a ring. This time, Asami gave it her all, resolving the issue in just a few minutes. She was then promoted to a full-fledged researcher, and began conducting official experimental research. Her working hours were relatively flexible, as long as she completed her daily tasks. The main job involved collecting required samples and conducting various experiments. The work was both dry and tedious, and for a long time yielded no significant results. Fortunately, with the accumulated experience from her past lives, and her unique insights into exiting, she managed to cope with such work. The shared microscope in the lab was constantly adjusted by someone else, to their own viewing angle, never reset afterward. This forced Asami to recalibrate the focus every time she used it, which annoyed her greatly. During lunch at the Research Institute's cafeteria, she learned from her senior that the one who didn't reset the microscope focus was a genius postdoc in their department. The students admired him. Even though he was always engrossed in research and clueless about social interactions, Asami felt relieved, realizing that most geniuses might be like that. Gradually, she got used to adjusting the microscope and even reset the focus to 0 after using it. The end of the workday was not fixed, it depended on her experiment results. Some people finished at 6 p.m., while others worked until midnight. After 3 years of experimentation, she still had no groundbreaking research achievements. One day, Asami returned to her hometown, and her father told her that Haruka was bringing her boyfriend home. He discussed with her what to wear, in case the boyfriend proposed. Asami advised him to be natural and not to overthink it. Her father insisted on dressing formally, as it was a serious matter. A few days later, Haruka indeed brought her boyfriend home. He discussed with her what to wear, in case the boyfriend proposed, but only to help decorate a new cabinet. Her father had dressed up in vain, waiting all day. After the boyfriend left, he realized he had overdressed for nothing. Asami continued her experiments, sometimes imagining that the microorganisms she observed might be reincarnated beings, just like her. This life, she lived to 35 years old, longer than in her previous lives. Although she didn't make any major medical breakthroughs, she published her papers on some medical websites, contributing to the field. Finally, Haruka got married, to the same boyfriend she had brought home before. Watching her sister walk down the aisle, Asami recalled their childhood together, feeling warm and joyful. Seeing her sister's happiness, she felt happy too. In her hometown, Asami arranged to meet Mary for a meal. They hadn't seen each other in a long time, and had much to catch up on. Mary was now a flight attendant, undergoing strict annual health checks. Asami remarked she couldn't manage such a regimen. Just then, Nazuki and Miho passed by and spotted them. It had been decades since they last met at the coming-of-age ceremony. They were all happy to see old friends again, amazed at how little they had changed. Asami wanted to invite them to join, but Nazuki and Miho, feeling out of place with Mary, made excuses and left. After they left, Asami confessed she had hesitated about inviting them. Mary said they probably wouldn't have agreed, as they were not that close anymore. Asami pondered how close they once were, and how distant they had become. Was it time that changed them, or their choices? In life, gains often come with losses. Mary pulled out a photo from their middle school trip to Korea, a memento of their first meeting. Mary then asked a question she had long wanted to ask. Which life is this for you? Mary as a reincarnated soul. No wonder she had always ranked first in previous lives. Asami, caught off guard, wondered whether to reveal the truth. Seeing Asami's hesitation, Mary admitted she was on her 5th life. Asami asked her how she figured it out. Mary said that she wasn't always such a diligent student. Her outstanding performance naturally aroused suspicion. Plus, the photograph from their middle school trip to Korea was taken perfectly, a concept that didn't exist back then. Mary had mentioned future shopping malls in their conversations, further proving that Asami was also a reincarnator. Mary had noticed long ago, but Asami wondered why she hadn't said anything before. Mary admitted that she was embarrassed, afraid of being mistaken for crazy if she was wrong. She didn't want to lose her only friend, Asami. Asami asked if she also reincarnated at the reception desk and what she first turned into. Mary replied that she initially reincarnated as a termite in southeast Guatemala, a favorite prey of giant anteaters. She then asked Asami what she had transformed into. Asami vaguely mentioned an animal related to termites, making Mary laugh. She thought reincarnated souls must have similar paths. Asami asked if Mary's choice to reincarnate was driven by the desire to be human. Mary said it wasn't entirely the case. In her first life, she was an average student with mediocre grades. Nazuki and Miho were her close friends. This surprised Asami because, in Mary's first life, they were inseparable in elementary school, discussing fictional TV shows and trading stickers. On Mary's birthday, they gave her beautiful stickers. The middle school trip photo was of the 4 of them together. However, in high school, Mary drifted away from them, becoming an eccentric with poor grades, eventually enrolling in a vocational school for childcare. But their bond remained strong, with Miho driving them on trips during school breaks. During their middle school reunion, Mary confessed she once had a crush on Kaido, shattering her ideal image of him. In her first life, Mary was also a fan of Sasuke. They exchanged contact information and started dating a few months later. But Sasuke's career never took off. Despite his failures, Mary felt happy supporting him. Asami was surprised to hear about Mary's relationship with Sasuke, but it only lasted 6 months before Sasuke cheated on her with Shizuka. Mary had learned about Sasuke's infidelity from their 3 friends. She confronted Sasuke and broke up with him on the spot. After graduating, Mary worked as a nanny at Sakura Kindergarten, a job that gave her a sense of achievement. Asami remembered that she had attended that kindergarten herself. Despite her busy work, Mary often reunited with her close friends, who celebrated her birthdays with her. However, a heartbreaking event followed. In the crowded area, Mary suggested they move to a quieter place, and they ended up at Sasuke's karaoke bar. Fortunately, he wasn't there, sparing them any awkwardness. When Asami asked what happened, Mary revealed that Nazuki and Miho had died in a plane crash. They struggled to cope with the loss, and although they occasionally went out to eat, they were never as happy as before. They promised to live their lives to the fullest, honoring their friends' memories. Asami asked how long she lived in that life. Mary said she wasn't sure but died at 26, while Asami lived longer. In her second life, Mary tried to prevent the plane crash by keeping Nazuki and Miho from boarding. However, she realized that saving everyone required knowing how to fly the plane. To achieve this, she became a flight attendant, excelling in her studies and physical training from elementary school onward. She gradually distanced herself from her friends, but maintained her determination to save them. Asami questioned if this was truly the right approach. Mary explained that she planned to alter the flight path on the crash date. Despite her efforts, Asami died at 33 in that life, partly due to Mary's actions. On that fateful day, Mary had taken Asami to the bathroom, preventing her from the car accident she would have otherwise encountered. Mary's grief over Asami's early death led to her own health, and she didn't become a flight attendant, failing to save Nazuki and Miho. She died before turning 40, in her third life. Mary was a flight attendant, but discovered that she couldn't choose her flights, thus unable to save her friends. She died again in a car accident. By her fourth life, she died before even becoming a flight attendant. Learning from the reincarnation receptionist that they both faced high mortality risks after 30, Mary prepared meticulously in her current life. Next year marked the critical year of the plane crash. Asami advised Mary to be careful and offered her help. Mary reassured her, saying she had everything under control, and suggested they take another photo in Korea. Before that, Mary needed to use the restroom, prompting Asami to reflect on Mary's heroic journey. Unlike her own mundane reincarnations, Mary had endured unimaginable hardships, making her a true hero. The two headed to take their photo in Korea, and on the way back, Asami suggested they also invite Nazuki and Miho. The four of them were close friends, making for a perfect combination. Mary suggested waiting until she safely brought the plane back, arguing that meeting then would be more meaningful. Asami asked if that meant waiting until next year, suggesting instead that they meet after her next return. They parted ways at the intersection, and Asami resumed her usual routine. One day, she read on her phone about a plane going missing in Shanghai. A sense of dread overcame her, and she immediately called Mary, but there was no answer. Fear gripped her, and a few days later, her worst fears were confirmed. Asami attended the funeral of Mary, Nazuki, and Miho with her classmates, feeling a deep sorrow. Just days earlier, she had planned to meet up with Nazuki and Miho, but now the nightmare had struck suddenly. After the funeral, everyone gathered at Sasuke's karaoke bar, still enveloped in grief. Asami remembered her last conversation with Mary about the plane incident happening the following year. Now she realized Mary had lied to prevent her from worrying. The three friends stayed until morning, and as Asami walked home on a familiar path, memories of her three friends flooded her mind. Left alone now, she felt a profound sadness. Finally understanding how Mary felt after losing Nazuki and Miho, to numb her pain, Asami threw herself into work. 3 years later, after work one day, she unexpectedly encountered a woman who called out to her, asking which reincarnation this was for her. The woman turned out to be Minako, a colleague from Asami's first life, suggesting she was also a reincarnator. Asami asked how Minako knew, and she revealed this was her 8th life, and not seeing Asami in one life made her realize they were the same. Surprised, Asami invited Minako over. Minako explained that all her 8 reincarnations were identical, as she didn't intentionally change anything, treating it like a game to see how each life could be better than the last. Asami thought how blissful the first life must have been for Minako to have this mindset. Asami's fate at 39 struck again, when a steel beam fell at a construction site. A staff member told her she could reincarnate as a human this time. Standing at the door to the left, Asami hesitated, then returned and asked if she could do it again. The staff confirmed it was her final chance. Without hesitation, she chose the right door, beginning her 5th life. After attending the entrance ceremony, Asami saw a different Mary coming out of a classroom. They exchanged a look, recognizing each other. This time, Asami's goal was not just to accumulate virtues, but to ensure everyone's happiness, so Mary wouldn't struggle alone. Determined not to regret this life, Asami sought out Nakamura, hoping to switch flights with him. Nakamura, however, insisted the flight was crucial for him, as his aviation certification was at stake. Asami and Mary devised a plan, with Mary suggesting poisoning Nakamura to prevent him from flying. Asami objected, fearing suspicion and investigation, so they opted for drugging instead, planning to slip something into Nakamura's coffee, while Mary distracted him. On the day of the flight, they followed through with their plan. Asami, using her past life medical skills, successfully drugged Nakamura's coffee, making him unable to fly. However, just as they were about to execute their plan, they were interrupted by Kawaguchi, who had been influenced by Asami in a previous life. Kawaguchi had joined as a flight attendant, uncovering Nakamura's infidelity and disrupting his plans. This unforeseen help allowed Asami to take the pilot's seat. As they were about to board, a middle-aged man stopped them, claiming his previous life's wife died on this flight. he pleaded with them to trust him and change the flight path. Asami assured him their mission was to save everyone on the flight. The man, grateful, let them pass. Once on board, they altered the flight path, successfully avoiding disaster. This victory was a culmination of over 30 years of waiting and planning. They discussed their next lives, feeling fulfilled. In the end, the plane landed safely in Taipei, greeted by Nezuki and Miho, who had learned about their mission. The four friends reunited, sharing photos and memories, marking their happiest day in over 30 years. Mary and Asami left their astronaut careers behind, returning to simpler lives. Asami became a public servant, valuing her patience and connections with the community, while Mary returned to her nursery, fulfilling her early dreams. Their lives seemed to reset to their original paths, but now with deeper understanding and happiness. 58 years later, the four friends reminisced about their fulfilled lives, all having lived long and happy lives. The story ended on a note of profound friendship and contentment, celebrating the simple yet powerful joys of life.